What's up, budget travelers? Today we're going to discuss the 10 tips that worked for me, and hopefully they'll work for you on how to travel the world on a budget. They personally worked for me perfectly fine when I was traveling to over 60 countries around the world and doing photography. This is my first video on YouTube, so please, my apologies in advance if I screw up anywhere. Anyway, let's get started. So I've written this down over here on my phone, and I'm gonna look at it, and then we're gonna go over all these 10 tips. All right, so the first one, cheap accommodations. All right, many of these countries, I've traveled to parts of North Africa, I've traveled through the entire Europe, I've traveled through most of Southeast Asia and Central Asia. Okay, so now in Europe, yes, there are some countries that you can do on a budget just fine, where you can have accommodations just for yourself. You can have complete apartments, you can have hotel rooms, whatever works for you. I personally like to cook a lot, so I generally did take apartments when I was traveling through Eastern Europe, in Southeast Asia, and in Central Asia. Definitely not in Central or Western Europe. Not possible. $200–300 a night. I can't do it. All right, if it works for you, good for you, but definitely not for me. All right, so when you're traveling through Eastern Europe, by all means, try. There's apps like Airbnbs, Booking.com, you name it. There's tons of options out there. Reach out to the hosts first, because some of these countries, with all due respect, many of the people over there have a language barrier, okay? So for example, when I was in Albania and Bulgaria, Romania, people didn't quite speak English pretty well. So there were some hosts that would give me the phone numbers of the people who are the caretakers of the house. So I would call them up on WhatsApp, and I would reach out to them and discuss with them, like, okay, if it's available, how much time do they need to get it prepared and everything, because usually places might not be ready for you to live in right away. Okay, so it's better to call them first and then proceed with the booking. Okay, so generally the caretakers, they would speak enough English that you can manage. Alright, and in Southeast Asia, some of the places where I was enjoying cooking, because the flavors, the spices, the food, especially the seafood in places like Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, in Taiwan, it was phenomenal. Alright, I don't like to eat personally outside almost every day, but there's like some amazing night food markets that you can definitely visit in Southeast Asia, in countries like Philippines. You're gonna love the food, trust me. Okay, apart from this, when you're traveling in Western or Central Europe, definitely look for hostels. Most of the hostels are pretty decent, pretty good. No problems with them. Some of them, they're not the greatest. For example, there might be just some cheap bunk beds that are not the highest quality, and many of them might not even have a privacy curtain on them. So what I generally used to do is, like, I would check in a bit early, I would ask them for an extra bed sheet, just hang it as a privacy curtain so you can sleep easy, because obviously every single time there's gonna be some jackass that's gonna be like checking in at 3 in the morning, or like some dude who wants to do yoga at like 6 in the morning. All right, doesn't work out for most of the people that are traveling. Especially for me, like if I rent a car, I would be driving around, I would be super tired. I don't want any lights. I'm a very light sleeper, so I would just get the earplugs. You can buy some of the earplugs from the local medical stores that will fit your ears. Don't get those like 3M ones, which are like just the, you know, those ones like hanging out of your ears. They tend to fall off when you're sleeping. They tend to fall off through the night. So I would generally get like the ones that are like the wax ones. They're easy to get through any of the medical stores around the world, and just take those, craft it or mold it, whatever you would call it, based on your ear size, and you're good to go. Okay, other thing, many of the hostels that would have the privacy curtains and the bedding would have the charging spaces, reading lights, they're more comfortable. Some are slightly pricier, but when it like kind of works out in your favor for you to be more relaxed and well rested for lots of traveling, lots of walking on the next day, it's worth the little extra cost. But trust me, in Southeast Asia, Africa, and Central Asia, you're not gonna have a problem. $20, $30, $40, you can get like nice, beautiful apartments or hotel rooms, usually with breakfast included. I know, it's amazing. And you can live in those countries very well in a very cheaper price. All right, tip number 2, travel off season. Now, I know there's gonna be tons of opinions about this, that people might not be willing to travel on the off-season time. Okay, so they will be willing to travel like when it's like the summertime, when the party's happening, when everybody's outside, when it's just hot and happening. People want to travel during that time. I get it. Okay, but if you really want to save some cash and still want to explore the countries when it's less touristy, less crowded, you get the most of the places to yourself. As a landscape photographer, I personally love it. I just love that tranquility, just being like on a mountain or on a beach, or even like walking an empty road by myself taking pictures. It's an eternal peace that you get from that. If it doesn't work out for you, you're more into the party and stuff, good for you. You can choose like some different time of the year, but travel off season in any of these countries that you go to, trust me, it'll be easier to get the train tickets, it'll be cheaper to get the flight tickets, it'll be cheaper to get the bus tickets even, and it will be even cheaper to rent a car. Maybe not from the airport, maybe from like a location that's somewhere down in the city. You're not gonna have any problems saving some extra cash. All right, tip number 3. What I used to do. Okay, now this is debatable. People might have like some different opinions about this thing. They like to prepare in advance. They like to book the accommodations. All right, I'm gonna be in the city. I'm gonna like book it for 5 days, 6 days in same place. That's where I'm gonna stay. For me, didn't work. Never did it work. All right. So whenever I would book a place for a longer duration, what if that accommodation has some faults, has some problems, something that you just cannot deal with? It's just not possible. Maybe the host is not good, maybe the place is not clean enough, maybe there were some like noisy roommates when you were in the hostels and stuff like that. Things do happen. I personally booked it day by day by day. Now, the only thing that you need to keep in mind is whenever there's like a weekend time, whenever it's a Friday night or a Saturday night, more specifically, only in those times you have to be more mindful of that. Like when you're booking, make sure like you find some places that have the accommodations available for Friday and Saturday night, because those nights, if you go night by night by night, that thing might not always work for you, and it might turn out to be a little more pricey in some of the countries that are more popular. All right, so tip number 4. You could rent a car if you're into photography, or if you like to go to the places that are off the beaten path. Now, hear me out. If you're living in a hostel, in a shared accommodation, try to be friends with the people that are actually staying there. Maybe in the common area, maybe in the kitchen space, wherever you guys sit together and everything. See if there are other people that have rented the cars and you could carpool with them. It's gonna be a win-win situation for all of you. It's gonna be cheaper for them, it's gonna be cheaper for you. Alright, you split the gas money, you split the rent money, everybody's happy. If that doesn't work out for you, or you're like in one of the cheaper countries in Asia, you can rent a car or maybe even a scooter, motorcycle. Get on it, go shoot your sunrise, the sunsets. You are free. You have a lot of flexibility to explore the places, take some good pictures. As a photographer myself, I love to have that flexibility. I just cannot be a part of those tour groups and everything like that unless it's a necessity in those countries. Now, for example, in Central Asia, many of these countries require you to apply for an international driver's permit before you show up. Okay, now that process can take a week or up to 10 days. So if you're traveling to all the places, for example, Mongolia, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, and Kyrgyzstan, I would avoid Turkmenistan. No offense to anyone, but I personally would avoid it. But all these other 4 countries, other 5 countries, they are beautiful places, and you can definitely get like cheap tour groups to take you around, to show you the places. Super cheap. When I say cheap, it's like 20 bucks a day, and they'll take you to 5-6 different places, and they're extremely beautiful. Very friendly people. They don't speak much of English. Some of the guides do speak a little bit of English, but trust me, it's a really good option for you to go with them and explore and take pictures. That's the best bet if you don't have the IDP or the International Driver's Permit. Plus, driving in those countries, it's kind of tricky. If you are used to the North American style of driving, I personally learned driving in India, so I can drive anywhere in the world. I'm so trained now. I can deal with that craziness on the road. But if you're trained in like some of the countries that have some level of sensible driving, then you might face some challenges if you're driving over there. At the end of the day, it would still work out for you to rent a car. Now, the other thing, you can take the buses. There's many buses, especially in Europe. There's something called the Flixbus. You can take that. It's not the most comfortable one. It's not the best option out there, but it's definitely cheap. Now, some of the nights, especially like on, for example, a Saturday night, or another thing that happened with me on the New Year's night, I was in Venice, and every single hotel, there's like 200, 300, 400 euros. Like, it was crazy. So after I was finished photographing the fireworks at midnight, I just went over to the nearest bus station, took the Flixbus over to Slovenia, and I slept overnight on that bus. I think the ticket was 10-15 euros or something like that, so it worked out perfectly for me. You can sleep on the buses. It's not the most comfortable one, but you can eventually catch up on some sleep, especially if you're like younger than 40, you'll be fine. Okay, now tip number 5. So try to fly midweek. All right, try to fly midweek to your next destination. The benefits of this: it's easier to find the accommodation upon arrival in your destination country, and flights in general are much cheaper when you're flying midweek. I generally used to do it like Tuesday or Wednesdays. It used to work out just fine. All right, tip number 6. I can't emphasize on this enough. Pack light. Please, for the love of God. I don't get it. Some people, they are traveling maybe even for a weekend. I met few people that were there just for a weekend in Paris or somewhere, and they had 3 full-size bags worth of clothes and shoes and books and laptops and everything. I have no idea why. All right, please pack light. You will save tons of money on the check-in baggage. It'll be easier for you to take care of your stuff as well. I just had a rucksack, and I traveled for 6-7 months with just handful of clothes that I used to wear in rotation. When you're gonna laundry them, just go to the nearest laundromat, get it done over there. Most of the hostels have laundries on site for relatively cheaper prices. If they're too pricey or anything like that, or if when it comes to like, you know, like some small clothing, your undies and stuff like that, just wash it when you take a shower and just like dry it out. If you're staying in that accommodation for 2-3 days, it will be fine, trust me. In warmer countries, especially in Asia, you're not gonna have any problems. All right, it's a good way to save money. Travel light, take everything on the carry-on. I traveled with this camera bag of mine and with some clothes. Generally, I would try to get the boarding passes online, and I would try to proceed straight to the gates. If for some reason you are not able to get the boarding pass online and you have to get to the check-in counter and you are slightly overweight when it comes to your baggage, try to be nice to the people behind the counter. Try to chat them up. Ask them how they're doing, what their day looks like. You know, as North Americans here, we are very proficient with the small talk. All right, so use it to your benefit. Most of the times they'll be super nice, and they will kind of feel compelled. not to charge you for the oversized baggage just because you were so nice to them. All right, they work in customer service, they deal with enough on a regular basis. Try to be nice to them, it'll be better for you and for your pocket as well. All right, tip number 7, get a local SIM card. All right, so now I know many of you people might be using some phones that are, I don't know, do they still do that? Like, are their phones still locked or something? But anyway, if your phones are unlocked and there's no agreement or anything like that, you definitely are better off in going to some of these countries and buying a local SIM card. Now, many of the European nations, the European Union nations, they have one SIM card that pretty much is going to work for you in all these countries. Really good prices as well. So that works out. In other countries, yes, when I was in the Middle East, when I was in Africa, Central Asia, every single country you'll have to go and get a separate SIM card. Now, few of the Scandinavian countries, for example, they would sell like a SIM card in the grocery stores. So now you get that SIM card for like €1 or something, and it will give you like a little bit of data to use. And with that data, you'll be able to go to their web link to buy more data for yourself. Now, in some of these countries, they have their own language, especially in the Baltic nations. They had some of the, like, their web links that did not quite work, even with the Google Translate, for example. Like, the web page wouldn't just translate. Try to ask for someone's help. People are super nice over there. I'm sure someone will help you. Put some money onto your card using your credit card and stuff like that. And also, yes, another thing, like, never save your credit cards on your phone's browsers or like on these apps and everything. Don't do that. All right. God forbid if your phone is lost, it can cost you a lot of money. All right. So, but get a local SIM card. Good for navigation if you're driving. Good for like Googling different stuff. Good for like booking your accommodations in advance. And good for maybe connecting with that beautiful spicy senorita on Instagram. All right, so tip number 8, try to cook yourself and do groceries. All right, don't go all fancy and everything outside in this restaurant, that restaurant and everything. I know it's very tempting. I know you want to do it, especially when I was traveling in Western and Central Europe. Oh my God, the food there, so much bread and cheese. Oh, I hate it. I hate it. All right, so I personally love the food that has spice, that has some flavor, that is mouth-watering good. All right, so I was cooking practically every day. I just cannot handle that bland, stupid food, no bread and cheese, please, for the love of God. I just cannot try that. So in Europe, I was cooking by myself. I saved a lot of money, do the groceries, especially in places like Switzerland. All right, that place is so expensive, man. Even like, I think someone's gonna come and charge me even for the air that I was breathing over there. It was bloody expensive. Even McDonald's, 8, 9, 10 Swiss francs. That is like 15 Canadian dollars, maybe even more, just for like one meal. You're better off to go to the grocery stores, look for stuff that are discounted, that are probably gonna expire tonight or tomorrow. They are usually marked down anywhere from 20 to 50%. Get those. Either you can eat those or you can just bring it to your hostel or cook something. It's going to be much cheaper for you, and well, you can cook it the way that you like, and you don't have to compromise on the taste. All right, tip number 9, ATM charges. All right, so many of these countries have ATMs with ridiculous withdrawal fees. And the other thing is that they have these markups as well. So every time they would try to ask you, like, okay, like, do you want the ATM or the bank of that ATM to charge your account in your currency or the local currency? Now, if you choose to get charged in your currency, there's usually a markup, which means you'll have to pay around 12 to 15% additional just to pay in your currency. Don't do that. Just ask them to charge you the fee in the local currency, and that's gonna work just fine for you. and let your banks decide what's going to be the conversion rate and everything. And we'll do another video about some of the credit cards that you can travel with that do not charge you the transaction fees. So that way you can save a lot of money. But be aware of the ATM charges. Don't use ATMs over and over and over, because your banks will generally, over here they charge you $5 for using, say, maybe like cash advance if you're using your credit cards, for example. Sometimes you lock your debit cards or you lose them or something. So they charge you $5 for the cash advance fees, and then on top of that, like, they start charging you the interest. Be mindful of that. Be smart with your banking. When it comes to money, be smart about that. Avoid the markups, avoid the ATM charges as much as you can. And yeah, tip number 10. It's very hard to stick to a budget. I get it. It's very difficult. Sometimes you just meet some fun people. You go out clubbing. You meet people to go out eating with or drinking with. It's very hard to get to just get drifted away in that whole spending spree. All right. Try to avoid that. Don't go like crazy shopping and all that stuff unless you absolutely have to. Like I said, travel light. So whatever you need, bring it with you, and don't buy more, and don't buy things that you don't want. All right. So the difference between the want and the need, that really, that sort of education really helps here. All right. So stick to a budget for your food, for your accommodations, for your travel as much as possible. I know in some of the countries they're ridiculously expensive, so it's very hard for you to manage the money or save the money on the accommodations. But trust me, if you stick to a budget, it will be easier for you. And what I personally do is I come back home. I used to come back home every night, and I would write down whatever I spent, every single, like, to the penny. All right. So if like I bought even like a beer for like, say, $4, or sorry, $4.59, I would write the exact amount, not just $4. Every single penny counts when you are doing the budget. And look at the trends in different countries and see which countries were more expensive. Share those healthy travel tips with others as well. Travel more. This is probably one of the best things that you'll do in your life. Meeting people, learning about their culture, trying different foods, trying different, like visiting different destinations, taking lots and lots of pictures. We'll probably do a video of how to take amazing pictures with your phone in the future. And if you guys did like my first video, don't forget to leave me a comment with your feedback, telling me what you think about it. I'm sure there's gonna be a lot more for me to learn as well when it comes to YouTube. Every feedback is appreciated. Thank you for coming here, and don't forget to subscribe if you liked this video, and I will also leave a link to my Instagram, and if you like that, by all means, don't feel shy to follow me, and also my website. If you like any of my pictures, feel free to buy them. Thank you. Until next time. Safe travels.